Today, it's another episode in our continuing self-isolation series where we take advantage of the time right now where we can't travel and show you places we've gone in the past. Today, I'm going to show you some never-before-seen photos of the Readymade school in southern Alberta that were taken in 2012, just shortly before it was demolished. Let's go. I apologize for the poor quality of these initial photos. They were taken in May of 2002, which predates my first real digital camera by about 2 years. My options were either shoot on film or to capture still images using my old digital camcorder. The camcorder captured images at a resolution of 640 by 480, which seemed plenty at the time. Of course, looking back at it now, I wish I had taken more shots on film and then scanned them. So, that explanation aside, let's take a closer look at the Readymade school. Readymade is an unincorporated community located southeast of Coaldale, Alberta. This shot is taken looking west at the back of the school. You can see the original 1920 school building on the right and a newer addition on the left. This is a closer view of the same side. I really like the classic playground equipment. Slides, seesaw, one of those awesome metal rocking horses that always burns your legs in the summer, monkey bars, and swings. Everything you need to hurt yourself as we did as kids back in the day. By the way, growing up, we always called seesaws teeter-totters. Is that a regional thing? Let me know in the comments what you call them. Moving around to the front of the original building now. This is a fairly typical design for schools of the era when the population required more than the typical one-room school. Another view of the front. This photo is such low resolution I can't actually make out the year. 1923, 1925, something like that. Also of note, the flags on the sign. I believe that's a British flag and the red ensign, so it's likely that sign predated the current maple leaf flag which Canada adopted in 1965. Now, remember these windows because they're going to play a big role in the upcoming story. Okay, so fast forward about a decade to the summer of 2012. The school has been slated for demolition, but my friend Cody has gotten permission from the Readymade Community Association to go inside the school and take a bunch of photos. You can see camera technology progressed a lot in those 10 years. These photos are a lot better than the ones from 2002. While we were waiting for the lady from the Community Association to meet us and open the school, we took the opportunity to wander around and document the outside. Of course, I couldn't resist trying to get a little artsy with some shots. I really liked how these flower petals were laying on the concrete and the pattern of the clouds in the sky. There were a couple of phases I was going through in my photography evolution at this time. The first was shooting things at odd angles, as demonstrated here. This is the entrance located between the original school and the newer addition. As you can see, the building had ceased operating as a school and had been used as a community center in more recent years. A new community center had already been built next to the old school, which is what sealed the fate of this great old building. I wonder if anybody bothered to salvage this sign. I bet it would look great hanging in the new community center. At least that's what I would have done with it. My second photography phase at this time was HDR the hell out of everything. While I still love the effect when done in moderation, I was really into it at this point. This shot of the entrance isn't too bad, other than that awful halo effect around the trees. Once again, I love the pattern in the clouds and how they seem to be radiating out from the school. Here we are with the shoot things at any odd angle photography phase again. And when all else fails, get really close to something and then shoot it at an odd angle. Add in a narrow depth of field for a true artsy effect, right? This is the northwest corner, highlighting the twin entrances into the school. I looked online, but I didn't find any archival photos of the school back when it was new, although I'm sure they must be out there. I honestly didn't look that hard. If you know of some, please share a link or let me know down in the comments. And here is where I combine my overly HDR'd photo with odd angles. I don't hate this photo, and I actually like the composition of it, but it just shows how my photography evolved over the years. I hardly shoot anything now other than basic snapshots for documentation purposes. Here, this is more of my current style. Document, 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 as we say. Another HDR for no reason photo. Okay, I'm going to stop calling attention to it now because it will become super obvious the further we get into this video. Anyway, this is a nice overview of the back of the original school building. You can see the vandals have had their way with the old girl already based on the number of broken windows. I have never understood the mentality of what drives someone to do such things. Speaking of broken windows, hey, who remembers these old boot scrapers? When we were kids, my friend Chad was doing flips on one of them and slipped and really cut his head open badly on the scraper blade at the bottom. At least I think it was Chad. Memories fade as we get older. Okay, so remember how I told you to remember those windows back at the beginning? Well, the lady who was supposed to meet us got tied up with something else and couldn't make it. The building was locked out, but this convenient window was missing all of its glass, so we just backed my Jeep up to the building and Cody climbed inside to go open the door for me. It's not breaking and entering if you don't break anything, right? And I will mention again, to try and head off nasty comments, we did have full permission to explore and document the school. So, with the doors now open, thanks to Cody's gymnastics, I finally got inside. See that color of the railings and trim? I think growing up, every classroom we had was painted in that color. I remember one of our teachers telling us that a study had been done which showed that that color had a calming effect on kids, which is why so many schools used it. Looking back at where I was standing when I took that first interior photo, at this point the school seemed to be in pretty decent shape inside. This is inside the gymnasium. It looked like they had either torn up the hardwood gym floor, I'm not sure, maybe someone salvaged it, I hope so. Now, either that or maybe it had been removed due to water damage. After all those ceiling panels didn't come down on their own. I loved this old exit sign, complete with the metal cage around it to protect it from flying basketballs and whatnot. Again, I hope someone salvaged it. When I was in elementary school, I played in a floor hockey league, and I remember coming out to Readymade school for one of our road games. So I actually played in this gym as a kid. Moving down into the basement now, lots of water on the floor. Despite the windows, it was pretty dark, and that combined with my HDR treatment of the images resulted in a lot of the noise and artifacts in the photo. Looking inside one of the bathrooms. While I'm sure it was far less creepy when the school was in use, I have to think if I had to come down into this basement every time I needed to use the washroom, it would have been quite the experience. The door leading into the girls' bathroom. I imagine this is left over from the building's community hall days. Lots of toys and books that target a demographic that's too young to have been for the school kids. Must have been fun for parents to come to a community event and send kids down into the creepy basement to play. Electrical panel. Any electricians watching this want to play Count the Code violations? Not sure if this basement space was ever used for classrooms or just storage, but this room had certainly seen better days. With all those windows boarded up, this felt more like a dungeon than a school. See? More dungeon than school. If I remember correctly, this hallway was running down the center of the newer addition. I believe this is where we transitioned from the basement of the addition to the basement of the original school building. This water was deep enough that we didn't want to walk through it, so we were able to arrange the chairs into a makeshift bridge and use that to get to the other side. Back upstairs now in the newer section. Nice to see some natural light again. It looks like this sign had some old photos of the school. I should have taken some close-up shots of them, but I guess the idea never occurred to me. Or I was so overwhelmed with trying to take everything in that I never even noticed them while we were there. I mean, let's be honest. I felt a fair amount of pressure to try and absorb as much of this place as I could, knowing it was going to be the last time I would ever see it. While I'm sure we weren't the last people to ever be inside the school, we were certainly amongst the final few. The carpet makes me think this is where the administration had their offices. It may have originally been a classroom space too. I'm sure the school underwent a number of configuration changes over the decades. I'm not sure if the damage to this wall was done by the demolition crew or vandals. I guess at this point it doesn't really matter much either way. The main hallway in this section had windows which overlooked the gymnasium. As a kid who hated gym class, I can't help but think of how many kids had the humiliating experience of being picked last for basketball down on that floor. Another overview of the gym. It was interesting how that far wall to the right of the basketball net, there's an observation area protected by chicken wire. It's just an interesting little touch that sets this apart from many of the other places that I've visited. These are the steps leading to that observation area overlooking the gym. One last lonely chair sitting there waiting for a spectator's butt that is never going to show up. A closer look at the chicken wire. This must be what the Blues Brothers felt like when they performed at Bob's Country Bunker. Looking down at the entrance to the gymnasium. Now, these are not my photos, but they are images that were on the Readymade Community Association's Facebook page. Just a few months after our visit, the backhoes moved in and the rubble was set on fire, bringing an end to the roughly 90-year history of the Readymade School. Like many of our historical buildings, she deserved a better fate than what she was given. Thank you for watching.